What was going on is that I had been a full-time substitute school teacher, and I have a strong fitness program, going to the gym every day, and a lot of good relationships that I enjoyed. And that all changed. Mid-March came, the governor closed the schools, closed the gym, and then I decided to take a 2-month vacation. So I went down to North Myrtle Beach and rented a snowbird condo for April and May. So that started out really good, but about 1 to 2 weeks into that, I knew something wasn't right. And by that I mean I was having trouble sleeping, occasionally having a panic attack, and I realized that the media, and of course my own mind, had really created a fear factor around a number of things, but number one was getting COVID. I'm 67 years old, so I'm in the risk group. I don't have any pre-existing conditions, but I did have viral pneumonia when I was a 20-something, and that was a real difficult time. I was out a month and a half from work. I spent a week in a hospital, and based on what I know about COVID, COVID is like viral pneumonia on steroids. So I started to ruminate on that. And I'd be out walking the beach, and I'd be thinking about that, man, I don't want to get COVID. I don't want to get COVID. And that started the downward spiral. And then to make matters worse, I started just ruminating on whatever problem that I ever had for the last 20 years. And so by the time May came around, I was having some serious psychiatric problems. I had a great deal of trouble being functional. My body was out of control relative to my mind. My adrenal glands were getting set off by my body based on a perceived threat that was not a real threat. And so I couldn't sleep more than an hour or two at night and wake up, and then have to take something to get back to sleep. And so it was a very disjointed sleeping pattern. And so by the time May 30th came and I left, I was a basket case. It didn't take very long. And which really shocked me because I've never had this happen before. I've had things below the neck that have really gone wrong, but they were physical and they all were easily fixable. And what I found was the mind is not easily fixable.
So, Bob, how did Wild Wellness help you to rise above those disturbances of the mind?
Well, what happened was I did two things. I got back on the end of May. That Monday, I had an appointment with you at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Earlier that day, I went to my general practitioner, who's he practices Eastern medicine. And I said, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to a guy that has a reputation, and his team has a reputation for doing just this great therapy that's completely outside the box of what you normally would think. And he said, okay. He said, I'm going to put you on 3 medications. They're only a bridge to get from point A to point B. He said, we want to get you off those as quickly as we can and have the therapy take full control over your moving forward. So what happened was when I came here on Monday, we went through a dialogue. You spent the time necessary to understand where I'd come from and where I was at, and then you explained how it was going to work. So I think the big item was, you said, tomorrow bring your swimsuit. You're going to get in some cold water. I'm going, cold water? What do you mean cold water? And then you explain, well, you're going to go in the cold water for 2-3 minutes, and I want you to get down to your, cover your entire body up to your neck, and then you're going to go in the hot water and back and forth. That scared the hell out of me. So I listened to everything, and I left that night, and I thought, I'm not sure I'm coming back. So I worked up the courage, come back on Tuesday, and we did the immersion. That was incredible, because as difficult as it was to be uncomfortable for that extended period of time, when I left here, my mind was as pristine and clear as it's ever been in my life. And what happened was the endorphins went way up, the dopamine went way up, and it completely cleared out all my head trash. The residue from using these medications with alphabet soup names, but I mean, it cleared everything out. So I left here and I was like in a Zen state. And I got in my car and I have bad eyes. So I get out on the highway. You're on a busy highway. I'm driving down the highway. I'm looking around. I'm going, oh my gosh, all the images are sharp and clear. I haven't had that in 20 years. And so I went over to the juice shop, got a juice, sat down, and I just sat there for 30 to 40 minutes trying to figure out what just happened. And I remained that way the rest of the day. So what happened was, with that initial therapy session, I took a huge step forward from where I was just 24 hours before. And to my amazement, it's now been 3 weeks. I was getting daily panic attacks before I walked in here. Some of them were pretty bad. I mean, some of them happened in the middle of the night. And I would immediately rush outside and walk around and just try to cool down. I've had 0 panic attacks in 3 weeks because the therapy you've done, and then you've got 3 teammates you use who are all subject matter experts in given areas. Every single one brings something really important to the table that has to do with peace, serenity, meditation, and basically changing what's going on up here and creating what I would describe as new synapses and new neuron connections to completely reinvent my thinking process and get out of what was a negative hole into a positive environment. So that's the path we're going down. Amanda, the spiritual healer, fantastic job. I've had 2 meetings with her, had some homework to do. It's working. And then, Molly going through the yoga. I've never gone through yoga before. I decided that I'm going to be a yoga advocate. Made a call yesterday to a friend of mine who's been doing yoga for 20 years. He invited me to come to his yoga session down in Charlotte. And I'm going to be doing yoga in addition to the traditional weightlifting. And then, on and on. So it's been a positive experience. I think the most important part about it was how fast it occurred. Because like I said, 24 hours from the first time I walked in here, it's completely different. And then we did the immersion one more time, same thing. I left here, those dopamine and endorphin levels were really up. And I'm going, whew, wow. Cleared out my mind. And then I went back home. I looked at all my assignments. And I have a schedule that's been put together by one of your team members. And I follow that schedule every single day with no deviation. And the bottom line, it's working. So I would just conclude my comments by saying, I've talked to many friends and family members, and what I'm finding is, just from my own little world, there's a mental health epidemic right now. And what's happening is people first go to somebody and they get some medications like I did. And then they stop. And then what happens is, my older sister's an example, she's been on Zoloft and Xanax for 20 years. But yet when you go pick the medications up, it says right on the bottle, not to be used over 6 months. What's happened? She never took the step that you have asked me to do, where we're going to get uncomfortable with the water and some other things, because that's where the therapy is. That's where the healing takes place. And if you'll do that piece, you can soon leave all the drugs behind, because I tell you what, none of them feel good up here when you're taking them. So net, rapid results. Team's been great. They are just spot on with their analysis, their diagnosis, and their prognosis. So I'm going to be re-upping for some more hours, because it's going to be end to end. I'm thinking a 3 to 6 month progress. We've made great progress in 3 weeks, but I want to make sure we have a strong finish. So that would be my evaluation of the process so far.